Well, with more on the strike, we're now joined by Jon Hamilton, Vice President, Communications and Stakeholder Engagement at Canada Post. Mr. Hamilton, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me on, Michael.
Listen, we're now a few days into this latest strike by the union. What's been the impact so far in Canada Post?
Well, the impact is such that our operations are shut down right across the country. We're not able to serve our customers yet again. And we all know the impact that has on small businesses, charities, and a number of customers that rely on Canada Post. So it is always impactful when the postal system is shut down, and we're going to try and get things started back up, but we need to reach new collective agreements, and to date we've not been able to find the common ground needed to reach those agreements.
So no common ground yet. And to hear it from the union, they essentially say they didn't really have a choice here because they were in the midst of bargaining talks with the corporation when they were blindsided by the government's announcement last week. How should the union have proceeded if not this strike?
Well, it's their legal right to strike, and I'm not going to prescribe to the union what they should or shouldn't do. But as we view this, our financial situation is obvious to most people. The amount of mail in the system has been declining as Canadians have been moving away from mail and more to digital communications for 20 years now. At the same time, the number of addresses we serve increases each year. So revenues down and costs going up on a yearly basis have led to massive losses. So, and we tried to keep it going for a long time, and then we drew on our cash reserves, and then we came to the point where now taxpayers are funding our losses. We're on the hook to pay them back, but we have no means to do that at this point. So we need to transform. So ideally, we'd be working together to ensure that we can make the changes that are necessary. Companies go through changes all the time, and companies are able to work with their union and try and mitigate or reduce the impact on employees. Instead, we've not been able to get to any conversation about any change with our union. And a lot of what we've been putting forward over the last 2 years of negotiations has been changes that are pretty modest, but protect what our employees have, but allow us to grow the business. But the union, unfortunately, has remained, very, very, fixed on maintaining the status quo, which clearly isn't an option.
Okay, but you have essentially now been given a mandate by this government to cut and make changes at Canada Post. How does that affect the global offers that you were talking about earlier this month for the workers?
Well, we need to ensure that we have the changes in there that will allow us to achieve the transformation. The government was very explicit that we need to turn this thing around, and we can't be dependent on the taxpayer to fund our losses, and we don't want to be there. So we need to make those changes, but it's not going to close the gap where the union's at, because their offer in August, their last offer, had $2.8 billion in new costs over the 4 years of the agreement, 4 more personal days to a total of 17 paid personal days, plus stat holidays, plus up to 7 weeks vacation, hiring in any services that we contract out today, like truck drivers, a veto over any changes within operations, and more costs and things like that. So we went back to them and said, look, come back with something that's more reflective of our current reality, and we can negotiate. They didn't want to do that. So we're now preparing those offers and hope to be able to present them to them this week.
Now, the argument has been made that if, for example, Canada Post were to increase the rates that it charges for stamps and for delivering things, you could raise an additional $1 billion in revenues in a single calendar year. Is that an option for the corporation rather than cutting jobs?
The reality is we need to fix the postal system and make it more affordable for Canadians. And simply raising prices and not making those changes just covers over problems that have been persisting for many years. So what the government's done is given us the freedom, although we need to put forward a plan and make sure that that's signed off on, but to go out and make the changes. So we're making the system align with where Canadians are at and what they need. Just holding everything in place, hoping that mail comes back, is not a workable solution. So, we need to fix our core business, that it's a delivery business. We are structured to build mail. but mail peaked back in 2006 at 5.5 billion letters. Today, we deliver 2 billion letters a year. We need to make those changes, but we can do it in a thoughtful way. We've got thousands of thousands of employees who are going to be retiring over the next few years. We have a chance to really lean into attrition. We have post offices that were rural 30 years ago and were protected then, but are now in suburban or urban areas. We can focus on that so we can get back to the intent of the rural moratorium, which was to protect those services in rural, Indigenous, and northern communities.
What type of timeline do you think the corporation needs to turn things around? $10 million a day is the loss being quoted by the minister. How quickly can you stop that? How quickly can you at least break even as a corporation?
Well, we need to start as soon as possible. We needed to start years ago, but we needed the flexibility within our regulatory structure because we have a collective agreement and a regulatory structure that we're both keeping things frozen in time. So we now have the changes to our regulatory structure. So we are now busy building our plans, and we'll be sharing that with the minister. We were given 45 days to do that. And then we have to move forward, but move forward in a thoughtful way. So it will take some time. You don't convert 4 million addresses to community mailboxes in a matter of a year. It would be chaos. So we will take our time, we'll go community by community and do it right, but we need to move as quickly as we can. And beyond that, we need to look at what changes we can make now, and then down the road, make other changes. So, companies of all shapes and sizes have to change in line with the changing needs of their customers. We've been prevented from doing that. Now we're able to do that. We got a lot of time to catch up on, but we need to move with urgency, but moving forward in a thoughtful manner so we don't leave anybody behind. Like, for example, with community mailboxes, we have an accommodations program that eliminates the barriers. So if anyone is unable to get to their mailbox or has trouble getting the mail out of their box, for 10 years, we've had a program help 17,000 families across the country. That's going to be available. We don't want anyone to be left behind. So those are the kinds of things that Canadians will start to learn about, that changes are needed. We need to make the postal system more affordable. Canadians are paying more and more through their tax dollars than for a system that they're using less and less. But we can do it in a thoughtful manner and be there for Canadians.
Let me jump in here, John, because quickly running out of time. You talk about, and I hear what you're saying about thoughtful change. You're talking about leaning into attrition at this moment in time, but that's workers. What about the managers of Canada Post who have overseen this period of loss? Will they also be a part of the change? Will they be held accountable for not turning a profit?
Oh, absolutely. I think the minister was clear in his direction, and we fully support it, that there should be no stone unturned. So we need to look at our organization from top to bottom. We need to make change. But I want to be clear, though, from management, we've been on this train for a while. We've reduced our headcount. We've had layoffs. A number of my colleagues are no longer with the company. And we've made other changes over the years. Just for example, we changed to a different benefit, to a different pension plan for new employees more than 16 years ago. So 60% of our management are now on the defined contribution plan. We have tried to, in every round of negotiations, introduce that to CUPW, the last union that still get the defined benefit pension plan, but been unsuccessful. And even this round, we pulled that off the table. So we've been doing a number of things with management, but we're going to have to do more. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay, John, sorry we're out of time, but really appreciate the time for this. We'll speak again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.